artists to the concert visitors again, even if we are all socially distanced. I knew that there were solutions, from watching a live stream on Facebook up to cool new innovative ideas and ways to broadcast events. So I wanted to know why some are better and some are worse. You probably all know that hanging out in alt space is way nicer than just having a boring Zoom conference, right? But being a scientist, being at the university with my thesis, to find scientific reason, and I wanted to do so combining two main areas of computer science and social sciences, speaking communication sciences. I have basically started my thesis looking into the psychology of music goers, concert goers. And for that, first I looked into the distribution channels. And of course, we all know that music nowadays is enjoyed differently than 50 years ago and even 100 years ago. That now we're not basing the music industry on acquisition models anymore. These physical records that music lovers maybe still have at home, they were of course fading out. The revenue from really selling physical records and even digital records is heavily declining. We all know that streaming services are on the rise. This basically shows that there is a transition possible from physical to virtual if it is only implemented in the right way. And there was a very nice paper by Sharon, which was stating that basically there's an overall change from listening to experiencing music, even on streaming platforms such as Spotify. So with that in mind, isn't it interesting to not just look at music that is produced on an album in the studio, but on music that is actually live? What does it make? What makes it live? What makes it an immersive experience that I remember, that is not just me walking down the street with my earpods in? So I really looked into the psychology of concert attendant motives. There was a really nice study by Brown and Knox who looked into this, and they found out that there's basically four main categories. Our psychology is motivated to go to concerts, which is the novelty of concerts, the experience that you have at the venue, the engagement of the audience, the performer, as well as among each other, and practical reasons. If we go into detail, well, the novelty, it's mostly people stated things like, so it was a qualitative study that they did interviews on different people, and they stated that the acoustics, the sound, the vibrations, this is something unique at these concerts. There's unknown elements to it. Of course, you don't have these recordings. Talking about the experience, the proximity that you can really feel to the actual musicians, and the visual stimulation all around you. At the concert, you have lights and sound that come from all sides. You can really experience it immersively. Yeah, and the uniqueness of the event as well. We'll never have the same event twice, opposed to having the same track on my phone that I listen to every day. Engagement, of course, concerns social motives. So social dynamics that just happen at concerts are a motivating thing for people to go there. Because one of the first things that Thomas said in the beginning is also having a beer with other people, hanging out, having maybe a relationship even to the people on the stage. That is very important. That is what we love about concerts. It is about love because it is an emotional aspect. It's not something that you can duplicate and have every weekend. The best parties, best concerts are the ones that are unique and that you cannot repeat because they're very emotional. Of course, then there's also practical issues that can hinder you from going to an event. And these research have mostly left out, because for me, it was really about how can technology mediate the experience and engagement. Practical is just so totally different from attending a physical concert, or mediate the things that motivate us to go to concert, that make them such a unique experience. What actually is it that I can call novelty? What is the thing that I can experience? And how is engagement so important for concerts where I just consume some visual and audio medium? So I basically created 3 dimensions. Out of the novelty, I created the temporal immediacy. If we talk about a live concert, then we want to have it happen live in time. I'm currently talking to you in real time. I'm not a pre-recorded projection, and this is what makes this a live concert. Okay, temporal dimension, got it? That's straightforward. The next one is the spatial dimension. So thinking about any live stream, then you see that there is no spatial component to it other than you having a 2D screen with a video transmission of what you're currently seeing. So I was questioning on how different media technology can actually mediate spatial immersion and create also the agency to be able to experience what I want to experience in a space. The last part is, of course, social. This is also where I don't need to go into detail with people who are very familiar with AltSpace. Just a whole different experience to have a very immersive experience shared with other people, opposed to having a very immersive app or game that you have on your VR device that you're just running for yourself. So with these three dimensions, I have looked into different technologies and how these technologies could mediate the dimensions. For the temporal dimension, you can think of how to actually be able to listen to music. Of course, the live context is the opposite of first having to go to the store and buying an actual record. So you see on the scale, there's ownership on the very left and live context on the very right. Looking at the spatial dimension, it's down here. I've looked at different perspectives to one and the same event. If you have multiple perspectives, and that gives you a slight spatial perception of what's actually happening. People who are right now watching on YouTube, they will have different cameras that are being switched among so that they can have a spatial imagination of what this space that we are here in virtual reality and what it really looks like. And this is like the slightest way of conveying some spatial immersion, opposed to a total peripheral physical movement that's possible. I can walk up and down the stage with my VR headset. I can even turn my head, look in different directions. I have basically way more physical freedom in my physical space as well as in my virtual space to be immersed by my environment. So you can see that then I have looked in technology that's already there, and I have tried to match technologies and technological approaches with those different dimensions. And without going into detail of all of these technological ways to mediate an experience, I think we just go ahead and look at the different communication technologies that I've analyzed, and I will try to explain different technological features that are at play, the mechanics, while we look at a technology. The first thing that comes into mind when thinking about virtual concerts is, can it be as good as the original? which extent can any technology that I'm now going to analyze increase participants' engagement and improve their virtual concert experience in the absence of others? That's basically the case. Describe the pandemic here in 2017, knowing that social and musical enjoyment often goes together. That was the driving question that I always try to ask myself, looking at different technologies. The first one is pretty obvious. Well, I looked at live streaming. It doesn't need to be on a TV. It can be the radio or even on YouTube, social media. But I've just looked at how COVID-19 affected live streaming. And of course, you all know that before COVID-19, you had some cultural events that were broadcasted, big sports events, big cultural events like theater and concerts are typical events to be broadcasted, but not much, and a lot that was up a certain threshold. We were not broadcasting local church service or local small events like a presentation at university. These things were always attended physically. And this, of course, changed with COVID-19. And two major technologies were at place here. One that all of the students and working people cannot look at anymore, which is web conferencing systems, and of course, live streams of basically any fairs, conferences, events, and so on. And these I have looked at and tried to compare using the dimensions that I've just explained. The goal of all these technologies was to always create a shared and synchronous virtual environment that enables group activities and approximates a real life thing, right? With virtual lectures in university in a web conferencing system, we always try to achieve the unachievable. We try to recreate the real thing. And my thesis was centered around this. How can social technology facilitate new virtual togetherness? Let's look at different technologies, find the mechanics that work really well, note them down so that we can create even better technology in the future. First thing I looked at was, well, I'll skip through this part, talking about the time. First thing I basically looked at was live streaming technology, which I just explained, social media live streaming, and of course, live streaming via TV, radio, or on the web. And if we think about the temporal dimension, of course, we know that most live streams, regardless of the technology, they are really live, some of them even temporally exclusive. So if I have some live stream that is happening on social media, I might be able to watch it again, but there are also platforms which stream temporally exclusive content that I can watch at the moment that it's streaming, but not afterwards. So we can see in the temporal dimension, both of these technologies actually doing very well. But they're really lacking is obviously the social dimension as well as the spatial dimension. As we can all tell from experience, that you cannot change the way that any sports event is transferred to your home device. There's a director which is cutting from camera to camera. You get some sense of what the stadium would look like from the inside, but you don't really have the freedom to experience the immersion. When thinking about social media, of course, we have the ability to talk to one another. We can chat, we can comment, we have interactions like emojis and reactions. We all know how immersive these things are. Not really. You can watch a concert on YouTube and people will write hooray in the comments and give a rock and roll emoji, but it's not the real thing. It's not real social interactions because we solely rely on textual communication that just goes out into nirvana. We cannot direct our conversations anywhere. One of the interesting things is that classic live streaming technology already tries to achieve a more immersive way of live streaming by letting the audience choose the angle that they want to see the event from. One of the examples here is sports events, which have been doing this. I don't know if the Olympics currently are doing it. I know that in the past for big soccer matches and competitions, sports competitions, there were some TV channels who enabled the freedom to choose from where you actually want to see the event. We even had, like we can see here, AR representations of the stadium so that you actually have a spatial immersion or a spatial feeling of what's actually happening there. From live streaming, we basically come to web conferencing systems where now for the first time we have the ability to co-experience something. What I've called social and self-presence in social science is basically our true concepts that I have self-presence, I have an avatar, I have a self-representation of myself, and the people around me also have representations, so I have the ability to talk to them. Obviously, in a web conferencing context, this is camera, and we have audio streams of the participants as well. They can interact, they even have emojis in some web conferencing systems. And this gives us, of course, a way more social way of experiencing things. If you have a web conference and you're watching something like a concert, a presentation, a keynote, then you can always talk to one another, exchange over what you're currently seeing. This is something that in social media live streaming, you would first need to write something and you cannot even direct it to any person. At the same time, this ideal we have from live streaming, which is shown here, is actually not working. You might recognize these 4 names or 4 guys that are going to appear on the screen, and they did some Zoom concert thingy at the beginning of the pandemic. But if you actually think about it, how you experience your usual Zoom meeting, especially when there's a heated discussion, you will realize that there's one audio channel, and when someone's talking, you cannot really interrupt. So how are these 4 musicians supposed to share their audio channels at the same time with all of you? And how are you supposed to talk to one another if they are basically on the audio channel that you want to also use to tell your neighbor, how cool is this concert? Let's grab a beer at the virtual bar. It's not possible. And this is because conferencing systems are very one-dimensional. You have breakout rooms that you can be a part of, or you're not. And if you're in the room, then you share the video and the audio signal. If you're outside of the room, and you don't. This is some form of spatial immersion because I can choose to be in a room or not. But it is very one-dimensional in the sense of it's on or off. You get the audio signal, you get the video, or you don't. It's not possible to really form subgroups, to have these little discussions that we here in Altspace have a lot, where you just overhear something from someone talking behind you, then you create a new discussion. So that was what I was interested in. And then I looked for other online applications that actually support this. And quickly I stumbled across online multiplayer games. So some people of you might be familiar with the online gaming community. For those who don't, there has been online multiplayer games for some time now, and they have, of course, developed, and they're more sophisticated than ever in the sense of if you play a tactical game or any game that is played in a team and you need to talk to other people, you have things like proximity chat and team chat. Proximity chat would be the same as here in Altspace. I can talk to the people who are close to me. They can hear me. If I don't want to hear them, I go away, and they cannot hear me anymore as well. Team chat is something like a squad chat. So I would choose 3 people, and I can talk to them whenever, wherever. It would be the classic bouncer at the club who has like a connection to all the other bouncers at the same time. These mechanics, they are present in virtual games, in video games, and they have been for a long time. And actually, they create the scene for sharing experiences that we are lacking in concerts. And when I looked into the topic, I also quickly realized a minute, there's already a lot of concerts happening in online virtual games. And I've just shown you those 4 guys, the Rolling Stones. Even if they play in Havana, they're not able to play one concert for 12 million people. And this had actually happened on this online multiplayer game called Fortnite, where 12 million people were able to listen to Travis Scott at the same time at a special event. It's also one of a time event where the people in this 3D online multiplayer game were able to see, such as it is shown here in a different concert, see and co-experience an entire concert, which was of course pre-recorded by the artist, but on the other hand, stunningly produced with visual effects, 3D models and changing worlds. Those players were immersed and throughout the journey through the 20-minute concert. If any one of you is interested to see those full videos, they're all available online, and you can just approach me later, because I think it's definitely an experience, even just to watch these YouTube recordings or online recordings of events that actually happened. The cool thing here is game mechanics, they're still in place, right? You can talk to your pals, your buddies. You can exchange over what you're currently experiencing and seeing. You can move around, so there's things to discover and to explore. You still have this 3D world. And in some online games, such as Minecraft, you can even do this like you do here in Alt Space, not just on your screen, where you have a mouse and keyboard, but you actually have a VR headset and you have a so-called skeuomorphic interface that is naturally translating my physical interactions into the virtual world. You're basically seeing where this is going, because of course I was not just looking at video games, but also on social virtual reality applications, which I would also say AltSpace is a perfect example of. Here you have all the things I've talked about. You have a visual representation of yourself, you have acoustic representations of everyone here in the room. Probably some of you might be even talking in the back while I'm presenting here. That doesn't bother me, because we have multi-threading. We have several channels that we can all use. Even can write with text, can interact. There's cool emojis that everyone can send. Yes, and a love emoji if you figured out how that is done. And you have skeuomorphic controls if you're currently wearing a VR headset, because then you're in a virtual reality. You have a 3D application. You can look all around. And I even have room scale motion tracking. So I'm currently walking down my actual room at home as if I was on stage here, casually and nervously walking through my present. These things, they don't just happen in the applications that you know, such as virtual reality applications, but let's extend this keyword virtual reality a bit, because basically, not just AltSpace, but also 2D applications can create a virtual reality. Whoever immersed in a good video game knows that these create virtual realities for us, even if it's on a 2D screen. And this is a studio called GatherTown. They created a cool online platform called Gather, where you can, it looks a bit like the old days of Pokemon, where you would have like pixelated avatars running around on a map. They have created a video conferencing system that is running on those dynamics typically at work in video games. So the closer you get to someone on the little tiny pixel map with your avatar, again, virtual representation that is physically and audible, so visible and audible, sorry. So the closer you go to someone, the louder you can hear them, and at a certain threshold, you can even see their webcam. This is what Gather is all about, and it's not the only application which is using this. We have another one right here, which I want to show you. Let's see if it's playing. Which is called like this, sorry. which is called Wander Me. And if you look at this spot on the left, it's now all the way through. Let's start it again. You can see what the two main things are that they advertise with. Build new connections and move freely. Find your crew. What they do is they bind the social and the spatial together. They say, classic video conference, this is not working in the way that we would approximate real-life interactions. We need something that is bound to even just a 2D space, but to some spatial immersion that we can have natural communication among one another. And this is what it basically looks like if you have a meeting on on Wander. You have these little bubbles, which are again visual representations. And in order to see and hear one another, you have to move in the same room or in the same subgroup. And this can be used for anything from trade fairs, poster presentations, up to big conferences, and you could even have a concert in there. Wait, that was not what I wanted. I think that was the hardest slide because it included these YouTube links. Sorry for that. Yeah, and there were actual concerts in these applications, even though they were created as social virtual platforms or video conferences or meetings with your friends. Were actually bands, even bands that I was listening to, who went out and said, hey, let's do concerts, not just on video games. On Minecraft, I've seen a concert, but let's also do concerts on a platform like Wander Me, or on a platform like GatherTown, where everyone has these little pixelated avatars. This actually happened, but you know how the industry is. If there is one trend, then it's of course also generate entrepreneurs who are looking to make this a reality, to make this a designated app. So I've also brought two apps tonight, which I looked at and analyzed, which is Melody VR and Melody VR and Wave XR, sorry. And those two do approach this topic of virtual concerts very differently. And I want to now show you how they do it differently and why one is doing it way better than the other, according to my thesis. And this is because of the dimensions. So for that, let us first look at Melody VR. Melody VR, as shown in this video, very fancy, is basically a streaming service for 360-degree videos that are playing concerts. So you have different rooms in the physical concert venue, where then the thing is recorded on 360-degree cameras, and afterwards it's streamed on demand online for anyone to watch their VR headset. But of course, you can also just take your phone and watch the event like this. That's a pretty cool idea. They have even started this before the pandemic. Why do I now say it's not a good approach? Well, if we go look at the dimensions, sorry, wrong direction. Look at the dimensions of my analysis, you can see that, first of all, on the temporal dimension, it's not an exclusive thing. It's not even happening live. Have an on-demand library, you can choose the video and you watch it. So this is, of course, already hindering this live experience of a one-of-a-time event that I enjoy with my friends, ideally. Which just brings us to the next topic, social. Here I can basically not live through the experiences with my friends or with any other social actors. I am in a 360-degree, I can watch around, but I'm not interacting with anyone other than sharing my thoughts on the video after or before I watch. That's all I can do. So it's not an experience that I basically, like here in Allspace, experience at the same time with other people. The last thing is, of course, the spatial dimension. I can choose different spots in a concert venue and choose to watch the concert from there, but I cannot walk. I cannot walk around in the way that you could here in Altspace. And all I can do is choose the video mix or choose one of the spots where I can watch the entire concert from the moment I hit play. During the concert, during the experience, I have no way spatial immersion. And this is what makes it not such a good implementation for an immersive social experience. Of course, the other example that I've brought is quite the opposite. It is, we'll talk about the application first, and then I'm going to show you some sample footage. What they did is they have basically created a world such as Altspace VR, where live artists are giving concerts in real time, which are exclusive, so they cannot be replayed. Such as my talk here, it can be recorded, yes, but it cannot be replayed in the way of I put on my headset, start an app, and then I hear Lukas talking for more than half an hour because he's going overtime. It's happening now, and if I'm not there, I'm going to miss it. You cannot see it again. You can be there with your friends. You can be there with total strangers. There's different stages on which a certain amount of people is placed. Just because the server cannot hold 12 million people, of course, you need several different worlds where you have a small bunch of people, but the thing is that the stuff that's happening on stage is shared among all these worlds. And you have total spatial freedom. You can wear a VR headset, you can sit in front of your computer, but of course, the more immersive feeling will be with the headset. You have room scale motion tracking, and freely walk and look around. You can choose your spots, so as you can do here in Altspace as you listen to my talk. But of course, it's way more fun in a very engagingly visually designed world that is suiting, of course, also the concert experience. When I looked at this footage, I was like, hell yeah, this is what I want virtual concerts to look like, because it even goes beyond what we classically know, not just recreating a stage that could be there in real. No, let's have a concert on the moon, or let's have a concert underwater, or somewhere no one could ever imagine have a concert at. And this is what this application is doing, and this is why I deem it very engaging as well. Let's have a close look. So you can see it's also a 3D animated concert style. It's not trying to even create stages at some point. Here you can see a stage that was like on the roof of a house, but in most occasions, it's just a very visually stunning psychedelic experience that every now and then is trying to incorporate elements from the classic concert events that we know, but every now and then also tries to break these boundaries, just the way that we have seen it in video games, we have seen it in Fortnite, and is trying to create social experience as well, because in front of the stage here, you can always see these little avatars. Sometimes they look very human, sometimes they don't. They really play around with the concept as well of having virtual events that can be really branded to an artist too. The next thing is that it's very interactive. So what you can really do is, and there were charity events where if you donated, some firework would pop up, or if the artist would choose you, you could interact with the artist, talk to them. The artist could actually ask a question of, hey, which song do you want me to play next? Or there were big events happening, like animations. I've seen one concert where the whole wall behind the artist was slowly covered in flowers with every person who donated more for a good cause. I think this is really what makes it a unique application. It's not trying to do a 360-degree video and portray what we already know from reality, and is recreating the thing, but it's trying something new. That's what makes it very, very interesting, cool to watch, right? It's something that you would actually give money for. Who in the room, raise your hand, would buy a 50 € ticket or just a YouTube live stream of your favorite band? Yeah, you see it. And then who would give the same amount of money for their favorite band, but in this cool animated style, with even the chance to talk to them digitally, the chance to be there with people that you love, and people that don't even need to be near you, but who could be at the other side of the world right now. So I think we really need to push the boundaries of the technological development as well, because I feel that a lot of times we're just trying to recreate what's already there. And so was it for me. When I was having my thesis, at some point I needed to defend my thesis. And expectation and reality hit hard when I thought about, oh, well, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to defend my thesis, no one's going to be there, it's going to be me in my room where I have been sitting the last half year. It's going to be super boring. And I don't even need to wear pants. No one will see it. I don't have my family around me, my friends. I don't even talk to my professor in person. There's going to be a web conference. That's it. And I wait for 3 months and the postman delivers my certificate or my diploma. So I said, well, let's do things differently. Of course, the web conference is trying to create the real exam situation where I have to present for half an hour. I have like a PowerPoint presentation, and then I tell to the people what I did in the last year. Yeah, it took me a year, a bit longer than expected. Who could see that coming for a thesis? And yeah, afterwards, they're going to ask me questions, just like you do here now. And then that's it. I did a different thing. I have created a little virtual festival on Mozilla Hubs, which is also a pretty cool platform, open source for anyone to use and to host virtual events in. And on this little fair, on this little festival, and what I did is I created little stalls. I went through with my professor, but also Thomas has already seen this online space. I invited a bunch of people, some people who studied with me, who came there, even not having VR headsets, but just joining with their browser. So we did a little tour around this market that I created, around this festival market. And at every different station, I could tell them about my research, about different things that I did. I had a big stage up where I was even live streaming myself from my room at home, wearing my VR headset so that people could actually see me as a virtual representation avatar and being filmed with the headset on as well. And what I liked most about it is not just the presentation and the questions afterwards, but that people stayed and looked around the things and talked about it. After the talk, we had discussions, subgroups formed spontaneously, and they went through this market again and looked at different things and tried things out, watched 360-degree videos and other videos that I've also shown you in my presentation. And that's basically what I want to do with you right now as well. I want to discuss, I know I went far over time. I hope we still have time for some questions. I want to discuss, I want to hear your views on the topic. And we also have to keep in mind, there's going to be a virtual DJ here later. You're going to have this very virtual concert experience the way that it is possible on AltSpace. And with that in mind, I want you to make a wish. What would you wish your virtual concert application would look like? What features do we need beyond what's happening here in AltSpace already? And yeah, how can social platforms be more immersive? This is all the questions that I also have for you. So I would say discussion is open, and thank you for staying with me for such a long time.
Wow. Thanks so much. That was an awesome presentation there, Lukas. I feel like I was taking notes during, so if you saw my headset go up, it's because I'm taking notes. So everyone else was taking some notes there. I feel like we had a cheat sheet on virtual events.
I mean, my thesis is also going to be published in our local university library. Once that happened, fortunately, it has not in time before the event. But I'm also going to post the link to the thesis in the LinkedIn group or the LinkedIn event. So you don't even need to take notes. You can just look in there.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely some things I'd love to pick your brain about after this, for sure. So I'll be hanging around for a little bit as well, if you've got the time. I have put the hand raise feature on, so if you've got any questions, you should see the raise hand button. So feel free to do that, and I'll come around to you one by one and give you the megaphone. Otherwise, it'll just be me asking questions, and nobody wants that. We'll never leave. So, Christoph, we have a question from you, and I'm going to put you on air now.
Hey, yeah. Thanks for the great talk and very great topic. I'm curious, Liam, about Horizon venues after the Super Bowl Sunday night, Monday morning in Germany. There's a Foo Fighters concert, but in Germany you can't watch it because Horizon venues doesn't work in Germany. Does anybody know how you can attend this concert? Because to attend it in the 2D live stream is not how it is meant to be, yes? And yeah, who knows how to get in and about this concert, because this is one of the big VR concerts, a big band in VR, and I think they have a lot of publicity with this concert now.
Yeah, basically. Go ahead.
Sorry, oh, I was just going to say I don't know. I wouldn't know of a way. I guess there's all kinds of way to, VPN probably a way you can do that with you
access it in the.
You can.
I would have said the same. That actually I think VPN is probably your best bet if you want to access a platform that is currently not available in your region. At the same time, it's a great example. Thank you also for bringing it up. I didn't notice it at the Super Bowl, but later on I noticed it on the social web, that there's more and more things happening. You can also see how this is a classic thing where research is research against time, right? Because there's a new cool thing coming up, like virtual concerts, and then people write their thesis about it or do research, and then by the time they're done, there's already way more technology on the market that you could look into. So it's great to see what's down the road and to also correlate it with the things that I've said in my thesis and see if it works out or if it needs to be adjusted.
Yeah.
But if anyone in the audience knows,
evolving so fast, it's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. But if anyone in the audience knows how to give this man his well-deserved Foo Fighter concert tickets, then please go ahead.
Yeah, raise your hand. If anyone has the answer to that question, raise your hand. Because I think we're saying about VPN, but I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, because I need to log in with my Facebook account, and maybe I have to make a VPN Facebook account.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, technically, with Facebook Horizons, or now I guess Meta Worlds, or whatever they've named it, you shouldn't be able to access it if you're outside of the US and Canada, but there's a lot of people in there who aren't. So people have found a way to do that, and some people have said that's through creating new accounts. So that could be one route to go.
Yeah,
we've got some hands raised now, actually. Let's see if any of these are the answers. So let's go with Theo. Yours went up next. Theo, I'll just put you on air now. Go,
right,
Theo,
you hear me?
you're on air. Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Maybe just a comment for you for the Horizon. So for example, when I've set up my device, I was in Canada, and there I selected a region. And since then, I cannot get back to another region. So I'm actually getting the content from that region where I've set it up. So if you reset your device, select states, that might be an option. But that's the first thing. Second thing, I have a question actually about device compatibility. So do you think that the success of such concerts will relate a lot to the change of hardware, that there will be kind of concert versions with a very, very high-end sound system or something instead of headphones and so on. So you know what I mean, that devices need to go into the direction of having a separate version made for concerts?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. But thinking back to my 3 dimensions, and I mean, we can also do a poll in the audience here. I would actually say that the sound also against my first prediction is not even the most important issue at hand when we talk about virtual live concerts. Because of course it's great to have a cool sound system and super advanced speakers or headphones who can display the sound in a way that is really like kicking the way it would be in a live concert. But at the same time, if you really love a band, if you really love a song, you you want to listen to it. It doesn't matter if you just have a shitty headset or a really cool, sophisticated headset or loudspeakers. If you haven't listened to them for 2 years, you will be longing to listening to them. This is what we have with concerts. What we are not entirely longing for is just these sophisticated sound systems that you have at venues. It's part of the deal for sure. But just imagine you could go see your favorite band standing alone in the middle of the most sophisticated venue with the coolest sound system ever. No one there, the band doesn't see you, you can just see the band. It would not be the concert that you're looking for. And therefore, I would say just as important as a speaker system might be, it's to incorporate other people, social factors, and the spatial immersion as well. Because without that, even the speaker system cannot get you this feeling that you're looking for in a concert.
Yeah. I think a
But
great example
talking
of that
about
is how we're already sacrificing sound quality anyway in sort of MP3 format. The way we listen to sound now, if you put I don't know if you put a record on, like, or an 8-track that I've got, and it just sounds incredible. This sounds amazing, but I've already sacrificed that sound quality on and I haven't really noticed the difference in my headphones. It's only when I go back I'm like, oh wow, like, this was incredible, like, sound quality. So it kind of tracks what you're saying, that's almost secondary. What comes afterwards, that people are willing to sort of sacrifice that for the spatial, for the social.
And at the same time, I remember, Thomas, you said in the beginning, oh, I'm missing those small venues where I had cool concerts, right? A lot of times these small venues aren't the ones that have the great badass sound system. And still you want to go there instead of the Olympic Stadium because you just like the atmosphere there, like this dusty vibe, the people. Thomas talked about sweat as well, right? This is something that is about spatial immersion and social interaction that is not correlated to what we're actually listening to from the band at all. Sometimes even the venue with the worst audio quality will be the one with more fun, just because of the surrounding factors. But yeah, talking about devices, I think another thing is very important, which is the practical part, which I also left out from my research a bit, is if you have to have very sophisticated devices to enjoy an event that is co-happening for a lot of different people, and there's a barrier that is standing in your way of being there. And the more devices you can join the concert or the event, right? The things that I said is the example of concerts, but it's actually applicable to a lot of events. And the more devices you can use to join these virtual events, the easier it will be for you to get there. The easier it will be for you to also get your friends there, right? It's hard enough to create some group chats if everyone's on a different messenger. Don't even imagine going to a summer festival with people all are on different platforms. We're not compatible to one another. And this is also, by the way, where I see big dangers of monopolies, right? For cool concerts that everyone can enjoy and that we virtually share, we need open spaces that are built on open source technology and that a lot of devices have access to.
I was going to mention actually like the Wuja. I don't know if you know much about the Wuja device that you can wear, which you could use that in virtual reality, and people have with virtual reality gaming. that sort of creates the vibration. So you'd wear it around your chest and it would create that sort of feel of the music as well. As you said, the problem with that, friction, right? Every time you want to play a game or listen to music, you've got to strap this device onto you. And it's whether or not that might seem something like you want to do. If you're one of these people that's really, the bass is really important to you, you're an enthusiast, there will be people that will do that. In terms of, everybody, for a lot of people, that would just become too much, really,
Yeah.
after a while. Okay, cool. So that, yeah, great question though. Do we have time for another question? Let's see a thumbs up, a smile from Thomas, or a sad face if we don't have time for questions. Any more questions, Thomas C? Sorry, there's loads of Thomases in here. One more question? Okay, let's go for another question. Okay, so we do have a question from another Thomas, who's behind Thomas C. I'll give you the megaphone there, Thomas. There you go, you have the megaphone.
All right, hi. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Lukas, thank you for your talk. In the beginning, you asked the question if you think, or if we think these virtual concerts are here to stay. After doing all this research, what do you think? Like, how will the future of these virtual concerts look like?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a good question, and basically one that I still owe you, right? If you read the description to my talk, and of course you cannot say it for sure, because the first thing that will happen once we get through this pandemic and I can safely go back to having the concert that I loved so much in Amsterdam, I will for sure do that, and I will not stop because there is some cool new technology that is creating virtual concerts. I think a lot of people will do it the same way. But then again, we know that we're also people of habit, and some habits are there to stay, such as remote work and video conferences, probably. And looking at climate change also, hopefully, people will change their behavior, fly around the world for some meetings that can easily be held via a video conference. And at the same time, I don't hope that people sacrifice attending physical events if they could, but that physical events open to people who cannot physically attend because of being excluded, being physically far away, not having the money to attend. We saw the Stones today in the presentation, to attend a Stones concert for several €100, or that are maybe afraid to go out in public, right? Some of you might also know that in the beginning of the pandemic, some people who might be more on the introverted scale of the spectrum, very relieved that all of a sudden they didn't have social pressure in lectures and so on. And there might be a lot of people who would love to go to concerts and share this experience, but who just feel more safe when they're in their own four walls. So we also need to think about these kinds of people and what comfort virtual concerts offer for them. So I think it's in two directions, right?
Sorry. Definitely knowing how hybrid teaching goes, hybrid concerts sounds very interesting. Like a
it
tough
will
challenge.
Be an interesting topic to stay for sure. And I know of clubs who have created a digital system for COVID. Think about how to integrate this system once they get back into their normal event schedule, and to create these hybrid things. This is also, I think, what this whole metaverse development will be about. It will not be about having one digital sphere and one physical sphere and they're totally disconnected, but more of how does one leap into the other. And I think that can be amazing, right? If people at home could really interact with the audience at a concert, if you could also immersively show and share moments that you at a physical concert are experiencing with people somewhere else, it would be amazing. It's like as if a person 100 years ago would have said, oh, cool, I've traveled the world. I wish I had some way of visually sharing all of these impressions with my loved ones. Well, skip 100 years and everyone has a supercomputer in their pocket, can shoot 4K videos in slow motion of that, I don't know, that whale or waterfall. Yeah, something like that, right? So right now it might seem utopian, but I think we have a lot of cool developments ahead. But
right,
cool,
thank you.
really
Great
cool
question.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, great question.
Thomas is
Thanks for
is
that.
an old study colleague of mine, so it's really cool
Oh, okay.
to have someone here who I met
Oh, that's great.
the first time in 2014, I believe.
Oh, wow. And virtually now. Awesome.
Virtually, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm taking the megaphone off you, Thomas, but thanks for that question. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. I believe we're all done for the Q&A. Sorry about that now. And Thomas is on stage.
Yeah, Lukas, thank you very much for sharing your insights, for coming here. To let you know, guys, I had the chance to get invited to your defense. You created this great idea to run your defense on that virtual festival ground, which was, well, I don't know, has better to defend your master thesis in such an environment. It was really great. So, and I find it fair after you invited me that I invite you to Area X to talk about
That's really cool. Yeah.
your research. So thanks very much for coming.